Today, we're gonna dive into the world of Aeon Flux. Oh boy, are we about to go through a trip. It may very well be one of the most surreal shows ever made. The kind where you're just left thinking, what the heck did I just watch? We're talking about a world of NPC clones that are in a never-ending loop, secret societies, a world where everything is constantly under surveillance, hidden occult technologies, memory wiping, and even a cabbage utopia? It's honestly like a surreal, trippy dream. And I haven't really seen anyone break it down with an understanding of the occult and alternative history, which, from that perspective, you can see how Aeon Flux is not just fiction, but perhaps it's a black mirror of our own world. We'll jump into the symbols, the hidden meanings, and all the mind-bending stuff that makes Aeon Flux a cult classic. And who knows, maybe we'll see bits of our own world peeking through this surreal sci-fi legend. So with that, let's get started. Well, let's start off with the Aeon Flux movie starring Charlize Theron. Now, if you've seen the reviews, you know that they weren't kind. A complete disaster is a phrase that's thrown around a lot. Personally, I didn't think it was all that bad, but I get the criticism, especially from fans of the original series. It missed a lot of what made the show iconic. Its surreal vibe, the depth of the original story, and a lot of that either got changed or ditched entirely. Even Peter Chung, the mastermind behind the animated series, wasn't a fan, calling it a travesty that left him feeling sad and embarrassed. So yeah, it doesn't hold a candle to the series, but if you're coming in fresh with no expectations, it's a different story. If you're new to Aeon Flux, starting with the movie might actually be a good idea. The original series, with all its complexity and surrealism, can be a bit much to dive into head first. It's not always easy to follow or grasp what's happening, and so that's where the movie has its own niche. It's a more straightforward entry point to this universe, and despite its flaws, the movie still has its moments, especially when it comes to symbolism and hints of a potential future reality. It's intriguing to see how the filmmakers reinterpreted the source material. Sometimes, what they added or didn't could be pretty revealing about how they saw the original story. So what is it about? Well, the movie starts off by explaining that in 2011, a catastrophic disease kills 99% of the world's population. Scientist, Trevor Goodchild, develops a cure, and that there were only 5 million survivors who now live in Brenya, the last city on Earth. This Goodchild dynasty has ruled for the last 400 years, so this world takes place in the future in the year 2415. There's also a bunch of one-eye symbolism. I mean, even the poster shows the eye within a pyramid, but this is repeated throughout the Aeon Flux universe consistently. The most iconic shot being Aeon Flux catching a fly with their eyelashes. This fly is deeply symbolic as it is the layout for the city of Brenya, signifying that Aeon is attempting to capture this fly, the fly on the wall that listens to everything. This last city on Earth, Brenya, is contained within walls that are designed to protect the citizens and to keep nature out. Interestingly, we immediately find out that in this city, people are constantly disappearing, but that the government denies these crimes. As I was saying, the city is the layout of a fly's head, and in the shot we can see that there is a dome over the city, which I found to be an interesting reference. The narration is really on the nose. Like right when it says trade freedom, showing the city under a dome, it continues, for a gilded cage, but there are rebels who refuse to make that trade, and then we see this eye symbolism again, which is no accident. It is a reference to secret societies, as we will see. There are rebels, or you could say brothers, that fight in the name of the disappearances, or a secret group that fights back the government. These are the Monachans. In the movie, the Monachans are a secret rebel group within the state of Brenya, which is not how it is in the animated series. I'll talk about that later. But in the movie, they are like a secret group of assassins with advanced skills, or you could say superpowers, whether it is through technology or being trained. They are far more deadly than your average citizen. The Monachans pass secret messages through making out. Super trippy. It's basically an exchange of a pill, and once digested, a chemical is absorbed into the body that travels to the brain, forcing an out-of-body experience of some kind. This is extremely interesting because if you think about it, this is a real thing in real life. Literally, since ancient times, groups of people would get together, take drugs, and travel to the astral realm to conduct different rituals and meetings. Similar to the Witch Sabbath, it seems that this idea has been referenced here with the way that the Monarchans communicate and receive assignments. Interestingly, this seems to be unique to the movie as there wasn't anything like this in the animated series. Notice how everything is white and angelic. This is not just some simulation or technological drug. It is most likely some type of special and theogenic drug specifically for the use of telepathic communications. There is a white bright light behind her, and she's wearing a white, almost completely translucent gown. She has come to communicate apparently in the spiritual realm with her handler to receive her next assignment. Now, Aeon's mission is to take down the Good Child's central surveillance facility. Why? Because surveillance is their most powerful weapon. It's how they maintain control, keep tabs on everything and everyone. This is a hint of the invasive watchfulness that's suffocating their world. What I find interesting about this scene is it reminds me of a book I read where it is said that some advanced occultists possess the ability to be both an astral body and physical body at the same time. Meaning, usually when one has an out-of-body experience, they're in a deep sleep or meditation, but some can do it in an instant while awake, even with the help of a psychedelic. This creates a dual state of consciousness, which is what is precisely shown in the movie as Aeon is walking around the city. She receives her next goal, but at the same exact time, she is still in control of her other spiritual body, which is receiving or channeling this information from some other realm. This is what she must do in order to defeat the Good Child regime. She must destroy the all-seeing eye. Interestingly, they have these photos that are embedded into amber or an orange crystal of some kind. This man's daughter has gone missing. So many people going missing is one of the main themes of this movie. On the PA, we hear losing sleep, having bad dreams, visit our sleep center for help. So people are suffering from bad dreams? We find out that there's another girl in Aeon's life, Una, which in the movie is Aeon's sister, and she's shopping around preparing for dinner. I think the movie makes it kind of weird with Aeon's need to constantly dress sexy for some reason. It's like, why do these Monarchans have to dress sexy? I don't really get it, especially if they're trying to be undercover. I mean, Aeon sticks out like a sore thumb. Una wants a normal life. She wants to build a family. But Aeon can't just ignore the problems of the society. They both know that something isn't right. Aeon wants to do something about it, but Una rather ignore it all and make the best out of the situation. Aeon can't make it to dinner because she has an assignment. The scene shifts to a dynamic break-in. She eliminates all the guards and infiltrates the facility. Inside, she doesn't find traditional screens. Instead, there are like puddles capturing memories or moments, indicating everything is being recorded and can be reviewed. This is confirmed when Aeon sees her own recent conversation with Una, replayed through this advanced technology. It's a bit sci-fi. The recordings seem computer-generated and projected, as indicated when she damages the system and hears distortions in the alarm's voice. This suggests the existence of a sophisticated surveillance tech capable of capturing and replaying events without standard cameras. But at the same time, this very well could be an occult technology. This will be explored further in the animated series. The world of Aeon Flux is a mix between sci-fi and occult. This projection is coming from some type of ethereal cloud in the room. It could be something far more advanced. Next, we see Una preparing dinner, featuring dragon fruits among other items. Suddenly, there's a knock at the door. In an unexpected and tragic turn, Una is shot. Upon returning, Aeon discovers a covered body on a stretcher. Looking through the cloth, she is shocked to find out that it's Una. It's revealed that the Good Childs were responsible for Una's death, mistakenly believing her to be a Monarchan. The film doesn't really dive deep into Aeon's background, but it is established that she and Una were sisters who grew up together. In the next scene, Aeon wakes up in her room, dressed in clothes that are noticeably scant, which seems unnecessary given their minimal coverage. Upon pouring water, it mysteriously turns black. Notably, Aeon has an ear implant that beeps, indicating communication through some advanced biotechnology. She's informed that she needs to meet her handler. Interestingly, Aeon doesn't consume any drugs this time. It's unclear if the transformation of the water or even black goo is related to this. Regardless, she appears to travel mentally, perhaps telepathically, to receive her next mission from her superior. Now the focus shifts to Aeon's next mission, a direct confrontation with Goodchild. This assignment becomes personal as they are responsible for the death of Una, her sister. Aeon is fueled by a desire for justice for Una, but her handler, the red-haired lady, reminds her that their cause is bigger than personal vendettas, hinting at a more complex underlying strategy at play. And then it gets pretty surreal. The handler produces a rose from her mouth, its petals releasing spores. Aeon absorbs these through her skin, suggesting another form of advanced biotechnology. This also raises questions about the nature of their interaction. If it's all part of a dreamlike state, how does this physical transfer of items, like the rose spores, actually function? So this scene blurs the line between dream and reality, with Aeon seemingly bringing back a tangible element from what seems to be an alternate dimension. Aeon says, "What is this stuff?" The handler says, "We've implanted a root for you," so she gets some type of bio tattoo which will lead her to Goodchild. Then we meet Sathandra, which is that chick with the hands on her feet. Kind of weird, and really one of the most memorable parts of the movie from when I first watched it when I was younger. Well, these are modifications, so they have futuristic grafting in which they can combine different body parts, kind of like Dr. Moreau. So we get another awesome break-in, a bunch of flips and some weird plant pod guns. This part's pretty crazy with the blades of grass and the parkour. Another pretty iconic scene that I'm sure lots of you who've seen the movie will remember vividly. Aeon finally reaches the council, and we're shown this 3D rendering of what seems to be a factory. It's super clean, not at all like what we're used to seeing in the show. It's more of this perfect utopia vibe. Now, the council's in a debate about the Monachans. One guy's pushing for leniency, but another's just shutting it down, saying that he wants there to be no hope for the Monachans. And then there's Trevor Goodchild, cool as ever, saying that they can't take anything personally. Maybe it's more like they can't show any emotion. The Goodchilds are walking off and talking about some work, so Trevor seems to be working on something as he asks about some test results. They were all negative. Looks like he needs a new test group. Is this tied to the people who've been going missing? He's pretty intense about it, saying, "You see what's happening to people. We know how desperate this has become." But his brother, he's on a different page. He thinks that all this can be contained, controlled. This whole setup was supposed to be just a temporary thing, right? Trevor's brother, he's seeing it as a utopia, questioning, why does it have to be temporary? Trevor Goodchild, though, he's firm, saying, because it's wrong. Aeon gets a headset from the guard and heads to a theater room. Trevor is here talking to himself, and he's speaking about those who would destroy what they've built, referring to the Monachans as dividers. He emphasizes their identity as the last survivors of a once widespread civilization, urging remembrance of past struggles and survival. In a face-to-face encounter with Trevor, Aeon hesitates to shoot. Trevor, recognizing her, calls her Catherine, and we see a flashback of them kissing, suggesting a deeper, previously unexplored connection. Confused, Aeon then is suddenly knocked out. When she awakens, she finds herself in a cell, with Trevor coming to talk to her. It's clear Trevor knows her, but Aeon seems to only recall the name Catherine, indicating she might have been conditioned with a singular goal, to assassinate Trevor, leading to her capture. After their encounter, Trevor, puzzled but visibly pleased to see her, exits the cell. Aeon notices a cement block sliding around to reveal water. Utilizing what seems to be black contact lens technology, she checks the water for drugs and finds them present. She extracts a water sample with a dropper hidden in her shoe and whistles, calling for these small balls that she previously dropped. These balls then explode, creating an escape route. In the ensuing chaos, Aeon beats up some more guards. She then receives a call from Sithandra, leading to confusion over their intel on Goodchild. Aeon begins to suspect that their information might be incorrect. Meanwhile, the Council is in turmoil, criticizing the need for stricter security and accusing Trevor of having a secret agenda. Oren says he will talk to Trevor and is seen in a covert discussion with a woman. Oren is mad and the lady is saying Aeon has never failed. Oren wanted this done cleanly. Wanted what done cleanly? Does he have something to do with this? This conversation reveals more about the complex plot. Oren is a part of a scheme controlling the Monnikins indirectly. It's hard to catch at this point because the movie's so surreal, but this is who's controlling the red-headed handler. Oren tells this chick when his brother will be vulnerable next, and this message is passed down a chain of people until it meets another Monnikin that passes the message to the Red Lady. So wait, Oren, Trevor's brother, is in control of the Monnikins? The plot thickens as it is revealed that the Monnikins are unaware that they're being manipulated, used as pawns in a larger game. So this is done in secret to manipulate another secret order of assassins to do their bidding. In this case, kill Trevor Goodchild. But Oren's reviewing surveillance and sees Aeon's face and starts to recognize her. The scene then shifts to a greenhouse where Claudius, Una's partner, is tending to plants. Aeon visits him there, and Claudius expresses his belief that Una's death was not Trevor's fault and suggests that Trevor is actually trying to resolve a larger issue. He shares with Aeon that something's amiss with everyone. They're all plagued by bad dreams, which are like memories of events that they never experienced. Claudius further reveals that his work is just a fraction of Trevor's larger project. They're examining the growth outside the wall, hinting at a significant experiment linked to the aftermath of curing the industrial disease. He implies that this cure led to another unforeseen problem, a sickness now affecting everyone. Trevor's trying to cure everybody, which the movie tries to portray Trevor Goodchild as this good guy, which is drastically different from the animated series. Aeon gives the drug from the water that she got from her prison cell to Claudius, and he tells her that this is a secret message, that you need to take it, it's not poison. So she goes home and takes the drug, and she receives some type of mental telepathic message, different from last time because there's this harsh tone going on, so it could be biotech, but it's causing her pain. Trevor's message states that it's not safe to talk in the open, and emphasizes nothing is as it seems. He says, "Why do you hesitate? You know where to find me," as she starts to get back some blurry memories. His message prompts Aeon to recall some of these blurry memories. She runs directly to Trevor and they meet again. Trevor reveals his unawareness of Una's death and expresses that everything changed when he saw Aeon. But Aeon still doesn't understand. Why does she know Trevor Goodchild? She gets up on his face demanding for her sister back, as if they were going to kiss, and then she starts having another blurry memory. We get some tension here and it gets pretty steamy, but once she wakes up she's like, wait, what's going on? And starts trying to kill Trevor again in the bed. So she chokes Trevor out, and it appears that she kills him or he passes out. She sees a ring on the floor and reaches for it, uncovering a secret passage with stairs going down. Aeon enters a hidden library full of old books, some appearing to be from the 19th century, considering the current year is 2415. These books are relics from a past era. He finds a circular passage marked with a downward pointing pentagram, which opens to a tunnel, but she doesn't go in. Distracted by the sound of a whirring device, she notices another circular passage with a rose petal or an upward pointing pentagram. Aeon picks up this device with hanging straps, which activates and attaches to her body. This device reveals the true nature of the room, hinting that it could be a hologram. She then enters a new room, a laboratory, because it wasn't just a hologram. If it was a hologram, And even though she'd be walking the library, she wouldn't be in the same exact 3D space and wouldn't be able to interact in the same way, as the lab has an entirely different layout. So this must be some tech that can transport her body into another physical location. This doesn't seem to be just spiritual, as it's a lab for experiments. This is what the plants on the outside were being studied for. In the lab, Aeon finds a recording device. It plays a message from Trevor, indicating something crucial is missing. He mentions variables that affected the test groups and expresses concern about people questioning recent events and the need for a relical visit about 7B. While exploring, Aeon stumbles upon a photograph. Upon inspection, she realizes it's a picture of herself. Pressing a button on her strapped device, she returns to the library, confirming it's not just a hologram. Suddenly, she's confronted by a council member who attempts to shoot her. After a brief fight, Aeon can't subdue her assailant and leaps into the pentagram-marked tunnel, escaping through typical underground passages. Meanwhile, it's revealed that Trevor's still alive, merely unconscious from being choked out by Aeon. The next scene's pretty bizarre. The council members, except for Trevor, are watching a recording of him and Aeon during an intimate moment. Oren seizes this opportunity to sway the council against Trevor, painting him as a traitor for being involved with the Monacan. It's revealed that if Trevor is ousted, Oren stands to gain his position. Meanwhile, Aeon stands atop the wall, contemplating the unfolding events. The ongoing recording mentions 7B, a group of individuals, and, as their names are listed, a device on a rail is shown scanning the plants outside the wall. One of the names listed is Flux. Aeon listens to the recording again, catching a reference to scheduling a relical visit. As she's processing this, she looks up to see a strange, futuristic blimp in the sky. It has an orange translucent glow, with fabric strands resembling tentacles hanging from its underside, giving it an almost alien jellyfish appearance. The recording suggests that Trevor is requesting additional samples from relical strands 5.88. This seems to indicate a request for DNA samples of the individuals listed, including Una. Sathandra confronts Aeon, confused about why she hasn't killed Goodchild yet. Aeon, however, is no longer just following orders. She's going down the rabbit hole and realizing that this world isn't what she thought it was. Something insane's going on and she's going to get to the bottom of it. This complexity is something Sathandra, despite being a trained assassin, can't fully grasp. She's inclined to eliminate Aeon for deviating from her mission, but Aeon, sensing a shared uncertainty in Sathandra, confronts her asking, "You feel it too, don't you?" Before Sathandra can react, Aeon roundhouse kicks her in the face, and after a tense struggle, Aeon manages to subdue and tie up Sathandra, making a pretty sus comment. Aeon then focuses on the mysterious flying blimp in the sky, intent on discovering its secrets. She climbs to the top of a light tower to get closer, but finds the blimp's exterior too hard to grapple onto. She then leaps onto the hanging tentacles and begins her ascent, determined to find out what lies within. Aeon makes her way through a hole into an orange terraced room adorned with hanging strings. A female computerized voice echoes through the space, reciting various number codes and announcing, "Noted, return stream." The strings from the ceiling are part of a high-tech display system, suggesting the presence of an advanced computer or even a form of super artificial intelligence. As Aeon explores, she notices movement. An old man appears, greeting her with a "Welcome back," but he disappears? Was he a hologram? Or did he teleport like Aeon did earlier in the lab? Curious, Aeon approaches and touches the strings, which respond with a musical tone. She utters Flux, prompting the computer to display DNA information for Flux. In a startling revelation, the computer informs her that Flux has been reassigned as Sasha Prillo. Confused by this baffling statement, Aeon presses for further information, requesting the address of this Sasha Prillo. In an unexpected turn, Sathandra, still tied up, manages to activate the telepathic drug. She communicates with the red-headed handler, revealing that Goodchild is still alive because Aeon spared him. She hints at this personal connection between Aeon and Goodchild, though the full extent of it still remains unclear. Aeon, now labeled a fugitive by the Monachans, is on the run from both her former allies and her enemies. Simultaneously, the Council targets Trevor, arriving at his house only to find it empty. Trevor is aboard the DNA blimp, engaged in a conversation with the old man. The old man informs him that Aeon's visit was in search of her sister Una. Trevor, intrigued, asks the computer to display information about Group 7B, which is revealed to be a collection of DNA sets. As Aeon searches for Sasha Prello, believing Una might still be alive, Trevor learns from the computer about the demise of the 7B group, all killed in police actions. But Aeon is shocked to find out that Sasha Prello, the person that her sister Una was reassigned to, is a newborn baby. The baby is shown as we find out that Una was indeed killed. So what does reassigned mean? The baby has the same eyes as Una, hinting to a deeper symbolism with the eyes, signifying that they are the seed of the soul and that they pass through death as the individual is transferred into a new body. She has been cloned and born again. While Trevor is asking the computer who killed these people in 7B, it was Oren Goodchild. So Oren did this because these people in 7B had something to do with Trevor's experiments. Aeon is holding Una, and Trevor has come to explain what's going on. This is when it gets crazy. But apparently, Aeon knows what cloning is, and Trevor says that he cloned everyone. He says that there was a complication when they were trying to cure the industrial disease. The cure, or the you-know-what, had unintended side effects. It led to sterility, and the humans could no longer reproduce on their own. There was only one generation left to live, and we get flashbacks to when this was all happening, and it appears to be from our age, which also ties us to a possible reality. Trevor was a doctor, and we get a flashback where he's saying that it's our responsibility to save mankind. Then we get this whole backstory on how his solution to fix humankind from dying out was because of cloning. He says that it was never done on humans successfully, but that at some point, they eventually succeeded. Now, when someone dies, their DNA is collected and reused, meaning they can take samples of your DNA coming from really any small portion of someone's body, and then they're able to grow an embryo from that DNA alone, similar to stem cell research, which is being done in the modern day. It's simply a matter of ethics that we're not told about these things. There are laws in place that prohibit these experiments to take place on the surface. However, that doesn't mean there aren't underground projects occurring. These things are not just based on fantasy or sci-fi, they're based on real-world concepts. But they add a little bit of the sci-fi element in there so that it seems futuristic. So we find out that Oren and Trevor built the relicle to store the DNA on this flying jellyfish craft. Why did they do this? Because they wanted to conceal the cloning process, meaning literally to keep this whole thing a secret, which goes to show how big of a deal this really would be if it's being done in the real world today, right? The old man in the weird suit is the Keeper, and this is strange. So apparently, they're tricking people into thinking that their clones are their own babies. I mean, this is kind of suspicious for anyone to even think of a concept like this, but the way it works is that the Keeper finds a suitable couple, and then they give the couple food additives, so drugs in their food that induce a chemical pregnancy. This is weird because it would mean they're watching all the time, and when a couple has sex, they're aware of it and slip drugs in their food that makes them get pregnant. This is where it's pretty messed up. The couple will then come in for an exam, and the doctors will then implant the cloned embryo secretly unknown to the patient that they created from the DNA of the cloned individual. So it's not the parent's baby. And then they show this video which seems to be depicting IVF. Trevor says from there, things happen naturally, which is not how it is in the original show at all, but okay. So people are having these babies, but they are citizens who just died, and then they are reborn with the exact same DNA, a loop, an exact copy of who they were before. This is the only way to survive according to Trevor, which is pretty nuts. For 7 generations, Oren and Trevor have been cloning themselves, but here's the thing. They actually reteach themselves so that they could eventually find a cure for the sterility, so that we could all live on. Aeon's like, what? So we're all just copies? Trevor's like, no, we're more than that. We weren't supposed to make this permanent. Which goes back to the Trevor and Oren conversation at the beginning. Oren wants to stay in this fake utopia where people are just cloned and they have no memories of what happened. So they are all lied to and kept inside a wall where individuals recycle. But remember, they're all sick, controlled, and live in an Orwellian surveillance society. Well, Trevor is trying to fix this and tells Aeon that Una was in his test group. She was killed because she was pregnant, and Oren doesn't want the infertility to be cured. He wants this to keep going so that he'll rule forever, essentially. Trevor says that Una's baby would have been one of the first new children born in 400 years. They both realize Oren's true intentions. He wants to be immortal. Well, soldiers come for Aeon and Trevor and they make their escape. Eventually they make their way to a subway after being chased and then eventually have to hide in some tunnels while Aeon pulls a bunch of bullets out of Trevor with their hand. They're planning to escape and go outside the wall, but Trevor has to go back to his lab to get some notes. So they get some guns and then they go through these underground tunnels to get back to the Citadel. This is when Trevor tells Aeon that her name Catherine is from when she was his wife. He died from the industrial disease, and he says that every time he cloned himself, he taught his new clone about her. So there must not be a full memory transfer, but apparently through learning from his clones, perhaps he's able to access his clone's ancestral memories in a way, and so that's how he knows her. He actually remembers her. Their memories pass through death. She says that they were different people. And we find this memory transfer to be true because as they speak about this, the memories begin to rush in and she actually remembers her past life. They are no longer blurry memories. The next scene is the Monachans trying to find Aeon, and they can trace her as long as she has this pill inside her, so they have some type of GPS on her. Well, it starts to get smoky in the tunnels, and bits of paper are falling down, so they're burning down Trevor's lab. Oren destroyed it because he knows that Trevor has found a cure. Aeon is like, before we go outside the wall, I'm gonna go destroy the relical or that flying blimp thing because she doesn't really care if Trevor can find the cure again. This cloning stuff has to stop. Their minds are basically breaking because every time they clone a person, it just gets worse and worse. Living like this is torture. They're just ghosts. Aeon is about to shoot the DNA arc and then the council show up with Oren. Well, Oren tells them that it's much deeper than just his cure, that there are people having natural births outside of his experiments and it's happening more often. Oren has been keeping this a secret. There's some type of natural cure that is occurring. People are healing themselves. Oren understands the situation that his brother has created. He sees a beauty that his brother, the doctor, can't see. He created an Orwellian state that can be completely controlled. A tyranny in which individuals are recycled as clones, and anyone who gets pregnant naturally will be killed in order to keep this cycle infinite, and Oren's rule at the top as a dictator. Well, we find out that Oren, behind Trevor's back, told him that his wife Catherine was gone at the beginning of all this back when the disease was happening. But what he did was order that her DNA be destroyed. He did this because he thought Trevor was soft with her and he wasn't capable of creating this empire that Oren envisions. Seems like a plot hole, so Oren knew back then what was about to happen. But as Oren is talking to them, there are some Monachan snipers ready to kill Aeon, and one of them is Sathandra. Aeon touches something on her back, which stimulates this telepathic otherworldly conversation with Sathandra. So Sathandra ends up helping them out and shoots Oren instead, going against her orders, and then they all start fighting. Aeon eventually kills Oren and then makes her way to destroy the relical where she meets with the Keeper who saved her from being destroyed. The old man was there at the beginning, and he knew that Catherine needed to be saved. So Aeon destroys the ship and then survives their fall after flying over the city, and the ship runs into the wall, breaking it open so that everyone is free to leave. They're going out into the jungle after 400 years, so it's probably pretty crazy out there. Then the movie ends and we get to see what she looked like from our time, before all of this happened. Now, I honestly don't think the movie is that bad, but there are some significant changes from the animated series. They added Orin and made Trevor seem like a good guy, which is not the case in the anime. Also, the whole cure thing, and Trevor saving everyone is not really in the show. Trevor is more like a mad scientist in the cartoon, constantly starting new projects and experiments, some of them being very questionable. Also, Una is not Aeon's sister. Not sure why they did that. The entire setting of the city isn't right either. It's very futuristic and clean. While in the show, it's kind of more apocalyptic feeling, or some of the buildings are more worn down and falling apart in some instances. But here's what they did capture, or it's what they added really. You'll have to watch it because I'm leaving some words out, but essentially there was a disease, then a cure was provided, and it was this cure that caused sterility in mankind. So, in summary, the movie's about an Orwellian state with all-seeing eye technology in which every citizen is watched constantly, while this group of Monachans, which in the movie they're a part of Brenya, which doesn't make too much sense, but this group of secret assassins are trying to take down this dictatorship. But little do they know that Trevor is the good guy apparently. He cloned everyone to save mankind. Now he's trying to fix the issue that he created in the first place? Very strange, especially the otherworldly aspects in which they communicate. If you thought that was weird, the movie doesn't even come close to the strangeness and surreal vibe that's captured by the anime. I mean, it's so weird you literally can't even process it if you're just sitting watching. It's gonna put you in a trance, which is exactly what they were trying to do. The original animation series was part of MTV's Liquid Television, which was supposed to be a segment where they show young adult cartoons, but like the acid version of it, which was pretty unique for its time. They wanted it to feel like you were on LSD, and many of the shows definitely captured that feeling. But I would argue, Aeon Flux did it better than any other show, due to its mixing of occult, sci-fi, and conspiracy concepts. It very well could be the most intellectually advanced show ever to be aired on MTV. Apparently, the reason it could be played on MTV is because the higher-ups didn't even notice many of the subtle secret sexual references, and so they passed it through because I honestly don't even know if that would fly today. It's pretty explicit. The mastermind behind the anime was Peter Chung, who was actually working on the Rugrats before this. It seems that he was inspired by H.R. Geiger. I haven't heard him mention this, but if you look at his early drawings, you can see it pretty clearly, merging the organic with sci-fi tech. Peter was commissioned to create a spy cartoon, and to everyone's surprise, exceeded anything that MTV could have ever imagined. He says that he was inspired by Dashiell Hammett, who is regarded as one of the best mystery story writers of all time. Peter Chung has a huge list of achievements. He's actually a big inspiration for me. He even worked on the Animatrix and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Now let's break down the anime because it's pretty insane. Like I said, it's very trance-inducing. If you haven't seen it, I do recommend watching it first, but some of you might not be into that because it's overly sexual and kind of violent. Well, the pilot is the most graphic, but it's not that bad after that. So it's up to you because I'm about to break down all the craziest and surreal moments while highlighting much of the symbolism. There are only 10 episodes, so let's start with the first one. Well, there is season 2 in the pilot, but we're just going to cover season 3. The first episode is titled Utopia or Deuteranopia. Well, we get introduced to Trevor Goodchild, and he just recently stole the throne and is the ruler of Brenya. The previous leader, Clavius, has gone missing. Things are never what they seem. And it's really weird. Goodchild is like, I will hide nothing, and just like flashes everyone in the city. Well, this lady is impressed, but then tries to assassinate him. Goodchild says, "Nothing is sacred, nothing is secret." And then we see this surveillance device, which shows that these do hint towards one-eye symbolism in masonry. It was in the movie too, they were just more subtle with it. These cameras have a square and compass to hint towards secret societies. Gildemir, his assistant or something, notices Goodchild drop an envelope and then secretly grabs it to find out what's going on. So far it seems that this Trevor Goodchild is a complete weirdo. There's no getting around that. It seems that Trevor has clones of himself. He turns his bed over so that he can get into a secret lab unnoticed, and some clone or fake version of himself stays in the bed so that the cameras don't notice anything. This is when your brain starts to melt. So he goes to his lab and he literally opens up Clavius' stomach as an entrance portal opens and he goes through an intestine tunnel where he walks into this secret lair. This is like some kind of romantic love room or something. I'm not sure, but he keeps a dress in here and he really wants Aeon Flux. He loves her, desires her greatly. I'm telling you, this show is sexual for no reason, like weird fetish stuff that just makes you be like, why? Well, there's this weird item that Goodchild has that's also at the beginning of the show. It's kind of like an aimer or crosshair artifact made out of metal with a strap. They also have the same strap teleport device thing that transfers them to a new location or reveals a new location. Not exactly sure how that works, but it doesn't seem to be a hologram. Multiple times in this episode, I guess Aeon likes making Trevor watch her get intimate with other guys, so that's different from the movie. She's not like, "Oh my god, I know you." It's more like, "Let me torture you" for some reason. She also has one of those chastity lock belts, and she and this Gildemir guy keep going at each other in front of Trevor. The whole going through Clavius thing is just so weird. Like, it's next level surreal, and the soundtrack is just hypnotizing. But yeah, Trevor and Aeon meet up in this weird intestine romantic hideout, and it seems they were like working together. I don't know, they have a weird relationship. She knows about this hidden room, and she knows about the artifact, so kinda strange. She says that Gildemir is the problem. Not sure why everyone is naked in the future, but we get some more of that. Interestingly, Gildemir references the mile-high jellyfish. I'm guessing he's talking about the relical, but they never really elaborate on that. He asks Clavius if that's the upper house of parliament. Clavius says no. Gildemir was trying to set Clavius free, but then he realizes he's like insane. He's asking about the flying saucermen, and Clavius says some pretty wild stuff. The flying saucermen are Narzak, Area 66, the global empire. So 66 symbolism? The orbital jellyfish is to be deployed. Next is the expulsion of all foreign particles. Not exactly sure what he's talking about. But Clavius wants to do something pretty drastic, and so Gildemir unplugs the cable connected to him. Well, Aeon shows up, and Gildemir tries to kill her because he realizes she's like in on all this, but Aeon beats him up and then bags him to throw him away. Weirdly, Trevor's like constantly trying to force Aeon to be his wife, and they think that Aeon has Clavius, the last leader who is supposed to be missing. Well, it's Gildemir, and he doesn't understand what the artifact actually does, trying to say that it has to do with Clavius. Aeon grabs the artifact, and it's actually just a key for her chastity belt, so I guess Trevor put a key on her so that only he can activate it. Pretty weird. So they do have a very strange relationship. So he uses the key for the belt and for opening Clavius. The key is the way to Aeon Flux, inside Clavius' stomach on some alternate dimension. Next episode is Isthmus Crypticus. What I like is that at the beginning of every episode, there's some icon or picture, and it's essentially one of the main symbols of the story for the episode. This time it's some weird hornet or bug artifact with a stinger. This is actually a really cool episode. Trevor Goodchild is obsessed with keeping an exquisite being which he keeps locked away in a secret chamber. The new guy, Ilbrin, is like some pan-looking character with jumpy leg springs. So he has these socks with eggs that turn into mechanical hornets. This is pretty weird. So Aeon Flux comes to get something that was made for Trevor's pleasure, and it's this video of Trevor mating with an alien or some weird half-bird thing. Yeah, it's some creature. He wants Aeon to get this bird hybrid. Seems like he's sexually into this alien creature. He offers money, but she snatches this feather in a vial and Ilbrin calls her an anarchist. Aeon doesn't want to do it because she thinks the creature isn't in love with him. But he's like, wait, we can still do business. There's another Seraph Trev, which is the name of their species. He says there's a male one, so perhaps he doesn't want it just for sexual or love matters. But Aeon refuses, and this guy projects his suitcase because it's also a projector, and tries to hypnotize Aeon Flux, it seems. But out of nowhere, some security machine comes out from the ground. It looks like a large tentacle with a beak. It has the same eye as the camera, so it's a part of surveillance. Ilbrin lets out some hornets to fight the tentacle, and they make their escape. So Trevor Goodchild was watching everything, and he tells these guys to stick her in the Steno pool. So now we meet a new brunette. This is Una, and some boys are trying to get a bird that just ran into her window. She then looks at a photo of her boyfriend. The kids shot it down, and the bird actually has a message on it. It was a picture of a male hybrid bird human being. I don't think they're actually aliens. It must be her old boyfriend that she was looking at in the photo before the bird hit, or perhaps it's connected. This birdman is tied up and being kept prisoner. Well, Aeon barges in and we find out this new girl Una is a Monacan agent and Aeon seems to be giving her a new assignment. I'm not sure, but there's this weird joke. They may have had a sexual past. So the Monacans all get it on with each other or something? Well, Una's being conscripted. She has a note with alien text on it and wants Una to translate it. Apparently she has a thing for foreign tongues. So Trevor has two of these beings trapped, one female, one male. And during this shot, the music track is just epic. Some weird siren and fantasy sounds with screaming. It's pretty insane, not gonna lie. So Aeon and Una go driving and Una's like hallucinating out the window. Seems that Trevor wants to be a bird person or something. Aeon has a document that shows where the location is of the Seraph Trev. So Aeon and Una are in some pipes trying to enter the facility, and the foreign text is directions to how to get in there, instructions to get to the prisoners. Ilbrin comes and knocks Trevor out, and there's this bird that's flying around hinting at freedom. Aeon arrives and is trying to release the Seraph Trev, but Una turns on a radio signal which hurts Aeon and she gets disabled. Well, Ilbrin is trying to release the girl bird hybrid and Una is releasing the male. Then Una and Aeon start fighting because Una wants to be with this bird creature. Ilbrin saves the girl Seraph Trev and then she does this really weird smile. Ilbrin tells her that he won't harm her, but something happens to where one of his mechanical hornets stings and kills this female bird creature. Really sad, I really liked her. But then Ilbrin gets shot by Trevor, and now Una takes off with the male bird. Aeon makes fun of Trevor's suit, then kisses him but says some people aren't meant to be together. Then we get this epic shot of the Birdman flying with Una wrapped around him. But strangely, there's this part that is never really expanded upon. This bird creature has a red tick in his feathers that bites Una, and that's the last shot. She gets infected or something. This hints that she's gonna meet the same fate as the female Seraph Trev. The next episode is Thanatophobia. Okay, so we get more info about the Monacans here. The intro says, a heavily armed border wall separates the nations of Brenya and Monica, yet many Breens seek to escape the mysterious designs of Trevor Goodchild. What's strange is that the streets have this zipper, which is very DMT-like, where Aeon's vehicle can interact with lower levels or she can gain access to her car. They do this many times, kind of trippy. Aeon keeps repeating, "Ready if I want it now, danger boy." Well, some guy's talking to Goodchild, calling him soft, that the border control needs to be even more strict, he says. Then he says the men at the club have noticed while holding a triangle with his hands. So these people are talking about how in Monica there are no rulers and that's why Goodchild hates them? No head of state to negotiate with. So in this episode, a couple's trying to escape Brenya and the lady gets captured. Her name's Sybil and she has a credibility gap. Her spine is split in half and she has been conscripted. So Sybil's like super flexible now because she's missing part of her back. Well, the radio is saying that these bomb-like devices are Monican, bombs that Aeon set up in the warehouse. And they're blowing up some plant with these orange triangle devices that have a snake logo on it. Apparently, Aeon crosses the border all the time. She doesn't live in Brenya. And now the girl Sybil is trapped in Brenya while her partner has escaped. Well, Trevor Goodchild has come to see Sybil and this is really weird. So Trevor starts pleasuring her through surgery? I honestly don't know how to describe it, it's just too weird. And then on top of that, Aeon Flux is like doing some stuff with her partner and he's in this suit for some reason. So it seems that Aeon basically rapes him and forces him to have sex under police action. So who are these Bonikins and why are they into this kind of stuff? Sybil wants to escape, but she can't do it alone. Aeon tries to help her, but she won't take it. Apparently, the way to escape is through an area called C-section, and Trevor actually allows Aeon to cross the border. So Sybil tries to go through C-section on her own, even though everyone told her no, and we find out what these orange devices with the snake really are. They are like these parts for robots that include injection and surgical tools. Well, Sybil fails and loses her legs. It ends with Trevor saying, "That which doesn't kill us makes us stranger." Okay, next episode is when we learn about cloning. Episode 4 is called A Last Time for Everything. Aeon has heard about Trevor's new method for creating exact human duplicates. So Trevor's cloning one of his associates, and there are multiple of them. It's not like the movie where they are reborn naturally. They are literally created in a lab and then kept in prison cells. One of the clones is in a blue-green fluid with an eel or a snake-like creature. Very weird. They're giving the clones endurance test and one of the clones is terrified. The dude wants to give a new sample because his old sample, I guess, had issues with pleasure responses. And they're like probably around 50 or more of these chambers, so there are a bunch of clones at the same time. Very different from the movie. And this guy's like, well, hold on, let's talk about royalties. I should have some property rights over my own body. So the clones are Trevor's minions or soldiers. There's a new Monican with Aeon called Scaphandra, and this Scaphandra is Sathandra with the feet for hands from the movie. She also has a scar on her third eye. They're breaking into a facility, kind of like the movie, but there's no plants and it's all mechanical, kind of a wasteland. Scaphandra dips and leaves Aeon alone, but looks like she was kidnapped by Trevor and his crew. So Trevor wants to clone her, so he takes a sample from her armpit. He stabs her with the needle there and a white tentacle or string comes out and wraps around her spine, extracting a fluid. Then out of nowhere, she has a grapple hook in her tongue. Trevor wants her to be a double agent, literally meaning cloned. So kind of weird, her upgrades are not just grafting, they are technological. She has grapple hooks in her feet hands too. Trevor then says humans are a random arrangement of amino acids. There seems to be some subtle politics here or something. He says that the problem is not excess, but access. Others take away reproductive rights, but I grant them. Aeon says, how progressive. So you can go gleefully multiplying yourself into oblivion? Okay, so Trevor notices that Aeon's armpit fold is open and he sneaks up to her and secretly extracts her spinal fluid with the needle device. But wait, so Aeon knows? She squeezed the puncture hole because she wanted Trevor to clone her. So this is far different than the movie. Here, he takes her fluid and from this actually creates the clones fairly quickly too. He puts it in a machine and these organic intestine looking things start growing and connecting. This is not a birth, they are grown artificially. Looks like it happened almost immediately. Now Goodchild has Aeon and can do whatever he wants with her. This is where it gets mind-bending. So, the clone went swimming and sneaks out because Aeon planned this. He wanted Trevor to clone her, and somehow the clone knew what to do, meaning the memory passed on and Trevor doesn't know this. So, Aeon is using her own clone to be an assassin. Basically what happens is that they swap places, so now the clone is Aeon and Aeon is pretending to be the clone. These clones are disposable. And so Aeon wants to kill Trevor and then kill herself after the mission, leaving the new clone to survive. Trevor then wants to have sex with the Aeon clone, which is the real Aeon, but he doesn't want her because she's like falling in love with him or something, and he doesn't like it. So he goes back to his room and he has like 6 Aeon clones in his bed, which I'm pretty sure that means they're like his slaves or something. Well, finally, Aeon gets Trevor to relax and sleep with her, and when they wake up, they are hinting that she's actually the real Aeon. She can remember more, and she's acting more like Trevor's wife. Well, Trevor realizes there was a switch, and the Aeon that we're led to believe is a clone is actually the real Aeon. I know, confusing, but then he throws her cloning fluid out the window. Then Scaphandra is back to save Aeon, and we can tell the difference because real Aeon has nice hair, it's not curved. Aeon fights her off, or I should say the real Aeon, so it's not confusing, but anyways, this real Aeon with her hair let down wants Scaphandra to meet her at the border, but when Scaphandra gets there, she meets with the cloned Aeon who swapped places originally, and she puts Scaphandra in a chokehold asking what's going on. Scaphandra hands her a note that she got from the real Aeon, and it says to cross the border with Scaphandra and then kill her. Scaphandra ends up getting killed by security, and assassin clone Aeon takes off. While the real Aeon, dressed up in a sweatshirt now so that you can tell the difference, meets up with the cloned Aeon. So we find out that there are things that this clone Aeon doesn't know about, and that this real Aeon learned something new from Trevor. Then out of nowhere, Aeon kisses her own clone? Super weird. They're trying to escape the border for some reason, and then the real Aeon gets shot by security. Goodchild is very sad that this Aeon died, so basically, Aeon gets cloned, and this clone swaps places with the real Aeon secretly, and then the real Aeon falls for Trevor and starts to realize that something else is going on, and this also hints to the fact that the Aeon we follow is most likely a copy, or at least moving forward she is. Okay, so we're just warming up. The next episode is called The Demiurge. Man, this one's extremely occult. The intro says, Aeon Flux and the Monacan Resistance Force have captured the Demiurge, a powerful godlike being, and prepare to send it into space to rid the Earth of its influence. The Brains, led by Trevor Goodchild, battle to prevent the launch. Trevor starts out talking about some occult philosophy. Light in the absence of eyes illuminates nothing. Visible forms are not inherent in the world, but are granted by the act of seeing. Though the world and events do exist independent of mind, they obtain of no meaning in themselves, none that the mind is not guilt of imposing on them. I bid my people follow, and like all good equations, they follow. For full endowment of purpose, they do submit. In turn, they resign me to a role inhuman, impossible, and unaccountable. Okay, but Goodchild is starting to fall in love with this Demiurge. The Demiurge is like this trippy alien DMT god with multiple third eyes, which goes to show that's what's going on with Scaphandra. She got her third eye ripped out or something. It's pretty trippy, and there are some sigil-looking things under the head that's floating in this portal held by these metallic supports with deliberate symmetry. So the Monarchans want to send this Demiurge into space because they think it's evil, but Trevor Goodchild wants to keep it. Aeon is here to make sure it's sent off, and she calls the Demiurge a delusion. This guy, Nader, gives this other girl a card and says to go get this box, but to not look inside, and forces her to promise that she will not look inside this box. Trevor comes out of nowhere and tackles Aeon, and they start making out randomly. Here's the really weird tongue scene from the movie, but it's between Aeon and Goodchild. It's kind of strange, it's almost as if Aeon is possessed and can't help herself or something. This part's super occult. So the spaceship opens up and the Demiurge is in this portal, and Goodchild's like, yes! It looks pretty awesome, honestly, and the music's insane. It will 100% put you in a trance, especially if a teen was watching this, no doubt. But basically, the Demiurge's portal is emitting this blue light and powder, and it begins to focus its light onto this guy's forehead. The animation's quite incredible with the lighting, and this little tiny pill-shaped glass device, kind of like a transmitter, comes out this guy's third eye. It gets pulled out and then drops to the floor with a glow. A bird then jumps up and transforms or evolves into a majestic version of itself. The Demiurge can bring people back to life, it seems, or something like that, but they're different afterwards. Their hair changes colors and they get this third eye wound. But Aeon shoots the Demiurge up to space by pressing the launch button. Trevor's like, what the heck, Aeon? This could have changed everything, as it seems to have this ability to bring people into a god state or bring them back to life, making everyone immortal. This guy's still floating, and then one of those sci-fi tentacle things with the beak shows up. Aeon picks up the diamond, which was the pill from that guy's third eye, and she throws it. Next scene is Aeon is in a morgue, and that girl is looking for Nader. So this continually gets trippier. The bird shows up and is glowing, and somehow Aeon grabs a case from it, or the bird drops a case. Then we get to see some really interesting sci-fi home design, and this girl grabs the box that Nader told her to grab. Well, in this box is this super trippy cat with 3 eyes, and it's glowing blue with this haunting meow going on with this weird music. It must be some evolved form from the Demiurge. She looks in the box and sees this thing, which is so weird looking. She attempts to smash it with a block, but couldn't do it and runs off. Apparently, the Monarchans have aircrafts that they just come over to Brenya airspace and drop stuff off. They're dropping bodies in coffins to return them, which could mean they didn't want them to die. Trevor says pain isn't real, but to the individual who feels it. And now we got this weird male assassin. He has some weird strap suit and he's trying to assassinate Aeon. Not sure if he's a Monarchan or not. Aeon's going to this hideout where things are crumbling and falling apart. This girl is also following her. From a distance, she sees Trevor working on something in his lab. So Aeon finds this machine device case with a strap on it, but it falls and it's empty with nothing in it. Aeon is still spying on Trevor and sees Nader alive. Goodchild says, natural evolution should amount to nothing by now but a vicious cycle of obsolescence, a world unaccountable to its own past, and doomed to repeat it indefinitely, oblivious of any consequences. Okay, so it's about to get really weird. Well, they're performing on Nader. Not sure how to describe this, but Nader is pregnant, and Trevor needs a sagittal dilator. This guy's about to give birth, and Goodchild's basically doing this weird C-section. Well, out comes the surreal sequence where a Demiurge baby is born with 4 eyes out this dude's stomach. The guy giving birth is Nader, who was brought back to life earlier. Well, now he's giving birth to this Demiurge creature. I don't know, some occult alien or god of some kind. Demiurge is being reborn, but Aeon wants to kill it. Trevor uses a scalpel to let it free, and it starts floating up. Goodchild says, it's the everything, the every all. Seems to be some type of god homunculus. So Aeon tries to shoot this thing, and it starts crying and floats off into space. Okay, so it seems that this baby leaving now makes Trevor and Aeon age rapidly, and Goodchild is extremely mad over this. Aeon threatens to shoot Trevor, but he starts lecturing her on how she can't handle the gaze of the Demiurge because of all the terrible things she has done. He even says there are things she doesn't even know she has done, which I'm going to guess is a reference to her past clones and the crimes they have committed. Those are the worst because you can never forget. All you can do is suspect. They now sew Nader back up, and then Aeon remembers that she left the case at the hideout. When she runs out the room, there's this shot with a person tied up being forced to watch television, and the Demiurge is on the screen. Trevor is screaming, "It's everywhere!" So that's kind of weird. So what is this supposed to be? The Demiurge is some type of mind control device playing on the TV? Then the baby transforms into this super Demiurge, and we see it full body like some god alien being. Honestly, the Demiurge looks pretty epic. Aeon goes back to the hideout to find the Demiurge is just floating in the most hypnotizing way. Very trance-like. Aeon tries to shoot it, but the Demiurge is invincible. Then Trevor shows up while they're fighting, and the Demiurge destroys the building. The Demiurge saves the girl from earlier, I guess because she saved the cat. Nader and the girl are reunited, and she says that she didn't look in the box, while Goodchild says, "If but the cosmos could possibly have come about innocent of history, and not wholly ignorant of all its potential, unprejudiced but aware. Rather than that, its only trial be performed at the mercy of all its error." The Demiurge is Greek for creator, but it is also referenced in Plato's Timaeus. Interestingly, Gnostic texts use this term to refer to the creator of an inherently corrupt material universe, who is contrasted from the pre-existing God of the perfect spiritual universe. In Gnostic systems, Yaldabaoth, or Yahweh, is regarded as the malevolent demiurge and false god of the Old Testament, who generated the material universe to keep souls trapped in physical bodies, imprisoned in a world full of pain and suffering that he created. This is referenced in this episode to say that Trevor wanted to keep this god, or as Aeon referenced, delusion, so that he can use the power of the Demiurge to rule for himself and keep the population in a state of imprisonment. Aeon could be perhaps symbolic of Sophia in this case, as she fights to remove this Demiurge god or destroy it so that she can free humanity from its cage. The next episode is Re-Erasure. Trevor's interrogation of a Monacan agent leads inevitably to his favorite subject, Aeon Flux. Goodchild is messing with this guy and is doing a lie detector test. This guy is talking secretly with Aeon, and there's this red lizard toad looking thing that's see-through or has part of its skin open to reveal its insides. And inside of it is this red pill that Trevor takes out and says memories are precious. We're only what we remember of ourselves and what we have done. The lizard looks to be biotech of some kind, but it could just be some weird evolution. The red pill also appears to be a seed. Well, he shoves it down this guy's throat, whose name is Aemon. The next scene, someone shoots an arrow into Aeon's room, and it's a strange photograph message that says, to get the rest of the images, bring a Nargile, and bring it to the location described on the back. The Nargile is this little orange lizard thing. Then there's this other woman named Hedrick who's talking about the Nargiles, saying that they're a controlled species, that they're dangerous. So Trevor has this Hedrick girl give him a Nargile, and then he slaps this other chick, but gives her a key so that she can escape secretly. Trevor starts driving, then Aeon jumps in on the car ride to jack the Nargile. So that lady that got slapped sneaks out of jail, and Aeon, as a guard, sneaks in to come see this Aemon guy from the beginning who took the lie detector test. Aeon and Aemon are in communications, and she's come to get him out, but he doesn't remember Aeon and starts going insane, yelling, "Feel my skin, ripe fruit for picking." This freaks Aeon out and she runs off to escape. While she's going through some hidden passages, and she runs into that girl, and she actually almost kills Aeon. But by attacking Aeon, she pretty much falls and dies. Aeon's outside the prison now, and she's opening up an envelope that contains more photos of her and Trevor. So she stole this Nargile from Trevor just so that she could see more photos of her and Trevor sleeping together. A gust of wind blows the photos away, and she follows it to see a man in the distance, and the guards are speaking some type of native language. So wait, they're natives here? Does that mean that the Breens are invaders? We meet this new tan guy with the peg leg, and it seems that he's waiting for someone, that girl who fell earlier. He gets worried and comes closer to look, but the guards catch him. Aeon comes to save him, and then they both take off in his car. They're driving off, and they start to form a bond with each other. This woman who fell is named Muriel. Aeon lies and says that she hasn't seen her. Trevor dumps a Nargile into a water pipe so that it lands where Aeon is sleeping. So she's with this new tan guy named Rorty on some type of factory or rig of some kind in the wilderness, and he pulls out a Nargile from one of these pipes. Apparently, this message that she got from the arrow at the beginning was shot by Trevor, and he is doing this and setting it all up so Aeon will want to remember them or see the photos of them in bed. Anyways, this guy's painting the Nargile with the blue paint of some kind, and then Aeon starts talking about the bliss pellets. But Rorty's like, if bliss is forgetting everything about yourself, everyone you love. So Rorty and Muriel took the bliss pills together a while back to figure out how it worked, and they realized that they lost all their memories. It completely wipes everything, and you live in a fake bliss. They didn't even know whether they were lovers or enemies. He doesn't even know how he lost his leg. Well, we find out that they started collecting these things so that they could exterminate them or a planned extinction. They were already a rare species, but he's caught thousands. He has this whole plan sketched out too, it's pretty insane. So he fishes them out, Muriel stores them on this platform, and then the plan is to send it off to the sun so that they're all destroyed. Aeon then climbs up to this platform, which is like floating in the sky, and she's in the suit. Once she gets up there, she's expecting it to be filled with Nargiles, but there are a bunch of empty jars. Then there's this really weird scene with Trevor, and they have sex in this really bizarre way. It's like he plugs up his suit into hers, and they breathe in and out, inflating their suits as if it was like pleasurable or something. So these red bliss pills are inside the Nargiles. That's why they want to destroy them, and Trevor tries to forcibly put the bliss pill into her mouth, but she spits it out. So Trevor actually thought this was Muriel. He didn't know that Muriel fell and died in the prison, and so I guess this is what he and Muriel have been doing? Aeon realizes that Muriel was secretly passing the Nargiles to him. This raises a bunch of questions like, okay, so who is Trevor using these bliss pills on? Remember, they captured thousands. Has he been erasing Aeon's memories? By the time Aeon returns down, Rorty has discovered the photos. She lies to him again, telling him that the Nargiles are secure. Confronted about the photos, she tells him the truth about killing Muriel and about the platform. Pretty sure Trevor is erasing Aeon's memories because the whole point of her wanting to learn more about the photos is that she doesn't remember what happened and wants to remember. Otherwise, why would she care? So Muriel and Trevor were lovers, and she gave the Nargiles to Goodchild as a reason to be together. This guy gets really upset and starts attacking Aeon because she accidentally killed his girlfriend and thinks she's lying to him about all this. So Aeon comes back to the same security prison place, and Muriel is still there where she fell. Rorty at the same time is climbing up the platform to find out whether it's true or not, and then gets really upset when he realizes that there are no Nargiles up there. Aeon has stolen a Nargile from the prison and is heading back to Rorty when she gets into a fight with Trevor in the car. They're both on a cliff, and Rorty destroys the platform and it comes tumbling down, almost hitting Trevor. Aeon makes it back to Rorty to prove that she's not lying, because the Nargile that she got from Trevor has the same blue mark, but Rorty doesn't care. Aeon gets really mad and then walks out, and Morty says, "I'll never forget you, Aeon," as she walks away. But she ends up coming back thinking that she overreacted and tries to fix things with Rorty. But sadly, he took the bliss pill. Then Goodchild says, "Learn from your mistakes, so that one day you can repeat them precisely. Stop, erase." Which basically hints that he's got people on infinite loops. Man, stuff's pretty deep. Moving on. The next episode is Chronophagia. And so it seems that Aeon's memory does get wiped. The intro says, "These are the last things Aeon remembers. A baby's photo, a set of coordinates, Trevor's troops approaching." So they don't ever flat out say it, but it's pretty clear what they're hinting to. And this episode is a fever dream for sure. It's probably like the most confusing episode. Well, Aeon's in the jungle, and Trevor's looking for a specific location in this huge mech robot. They chase her down, and she falls through a secret grass hole by accident, where she awakens near an underground river, welcomed by this shaman kid. She has entered an underground city. The buildings look like mushrooms, which is pretty cool. The city is called Kaladin, which is what Trevor's looking for. There's some weird alarm going off, and she enters this room. The kid shaman guide is being really weird, and when Aeon asks where is everybody, he says the people aren't born yet, and that he's been here forever. So this kid's kind of like the keeper from the movie, and Aeon is looking for this baby in the picture. The kid just starts laughing because she has forgotten her function, but not sure if he's talking to Aeon or the baby. Trevor finds the lab and suspects that Aeon might have taken a sample vial. Then he gets crazy. So the boy takes Aeon to a room in a cave, and there's this baby that looks like a pig, or it's just massive with sharp teeth like some mutant. But it was just a dream. She's in this bizarre underground tunnel system, falling asleep on an altar. She heads down one of the passages while fighting this dizziness. Trevor's soldiers seize her and take her to his camp. She thinks that she's been exposed to something, and Trevor tells her that she has been exposed to a disease that causes insanity, though he believes that at one time it also caused collective happiness. Trevor wants the vial so that he can affect the whole world, and starts talking about a disease that will cause insanity. So Trevor Goodchild has multiple projects, and his newest one is about causing absolute madness. But Aeon doesn't see the full picture, he says. That we used to have this disease in our brain, a feeling of being of the world, attached to it, and that they no longer have this because they developed an immunity, meaning they are NPCs of some kind, that he wants to cause a universal happiness. Aeon tells Trevor that the baby was a test subject that she was trying to rescue, so Trevor and his troops go to check this baby out. The kid keeps repeating, "The waker sleeps." By the time she catches up with them, they're all dead. Trevor is hurt and says, "Time is in our minds," and tells Aeon to grab the vial. But it rolls towards this mutant baby, so it wasn't just a dream. Also, I'm pretty sure that they're using repeating shots, which makes it even more trippy because it feels like a loop, but slightly different, like this weird deja vu or like a very vivid dream. She goes and gets the vial from the kid shaman in this cave pool room, and then says death is only a frame in time. Or was I dead already? The kid tells her that she's looked at the face of death, but has not guessed its secret. Aeon returns to the baby room and approaches it while the baby sleeps. Trevor arrives talking about how madness is the way, and starts to choke her out, and then his face melts and there's a demon under the mask. Aeon screams and then wakes up on the stone table again. So ever since she's laid down on this rock bed, she keeps having repeating dreams, or perhaps she's in an infinite loop. But she's still very dizzy. So this mutant baby is really weird, like some homunculus again. It's a compilation of all her mistakes or negative experiences. Also, this kid has no name apparently. This is a pretty trippy one, seriously. So this kid knows the secret of time? The baby girl in the photo was used for a bunch of experiments, and then they were trying to create human happiness with the disease that then turned her into a monster because it was a failed experiment. Then out of nowhere, the kid wants Aeon? In what way? So then we find out that there was no disease. Trevor says something happened, but they don't know what happened. There is no disease. She has a fever, a flu. So then they all blow up in their ship while taking Aeon, and then she wakes up again on the stone table. This time, the kid has been tied up on the ceiling and he's dead, and a drop of blood falls on Aeon as if this was a ritual. Then the kid starts preaching, composite things are like dreams, fantasies, bubbles, thoughts like a dewdrop and a flash of lightning. And during this whole thing, Aeon is like going through time and her clothes are changing super fast, as if they were going through different ages of time. Okay, so the kid's not dead, she breaks the vial and it starts glowing, and now she's naked with the kid? And then now she's back in the past, and this kid is playing on a baseball field, so Aeon Flux used to be from our modern time. Breaking the vial transported her. While the episodes in the series tend to use elements without any explanation, chronophagia is one of the most perplexing to the extent that not even the series creators can give a straightforward explanation of the events. The episode script called for extensive on-screen blood imagery, including bloodied corpses and blood on the table where Aeon awakens. MTV censors objected, so the corpses became mummies and the blood on the table became a mysterious purple liquid. Only the blood drop exchange between the boy and Aeon was allowed to air. One of the boy remarks, "Everything that rises must converge," refers to the concept of the omega point, a state of ultimate consciousness freed from time and space. It is a theorized future event in which the entirety of the universe spirals towards a final point of unification. In the book of Revelation, Christ describes himself thrice as the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. The next episode is Ether Drift Theory. Trevor's experiments in artificial life forms are contained in an ecosystem called the Habitat. An ocean of paralytic fluid protects it from intrusion of outside influences. The beginning intro image also sort of looks like an Ouroboros. We get an eye zoom out and everyone is just floating around suspended in space. Aeon has this really cool spaceship with the pod on the bottom, and she's with another woman named Linza. Together they're entering this massive cube that was created by Trevor. Apparently, Trevor can create an entire artificial world. So Aeon and Linza make their way in, and it's really weird. There are like these artificial dog security things, and all of the halls are made of gold. Aeon drops some ammo and it falls, hits a lizard, and an egg falls out. Aeon and Linza are infiltrating a secret base, this cube, and here live a bunch of mutants and artificial life forms. Around this cube is a fluid that will cause paralysis to any life form that touches it. There is another scientist here, which is Linza's boyfriend, and he's really sick. He has a disease that's taking over, and he's attempting to neutralize this fluid around the cube so that people who are trapped here can escape and swim to safety. The robots in this episode are super trippy, and the sounds are very otherworldly. So then Trevor shows up in a ship and destroys Aeon's ship as he arrives. Interestingly, there's a shot which looks like Trevor's born with another woman in a mold, but it's not that, it's some type of weird contraption for extracting the liquid of a person and then transferring them to another location. It does appear as if the machine bakes them like an oven and then creates a clone, but apparently this is like a door that he uses to get from the outside of the cube from his ship. He's with a new woman, number 16, and she's super cool. She has 4 arms and she has control of her hair like a tail. Very interesting. We get more crazy walking robots, and Aeon Flux is described as being just another variable, a cat loose in Trevor's mouse maze. Aeon makes her way to this room where Trevor is at, and they start fighting with these weird alien weapons that seem kind of pointless, but definitely a weird idea. Things get sexual again, but apparently Trevor was just trying to help Aeon because these hornets are attracted to metal, so he took all her clothes off. Linza's mad at Aeon now, and she has gotten sick from her boyfriend scientist, and they both have the disease. The scientist goes to neutralize the fluid, and some chemical gets released. It's like this chemical gas that is red and green that melts anything it touches. So the whole cube gets taken over by this red and green gas, and the episode ends with Aeon suspended in this ether drift. That would mean Aeon dies in this episode. I don't see how she would survive. And remember, this is just one of Aeon's many clones, so that doesn't mean it's over. Trevor can just clone her again and then wipe her memory. Now we finally have come to the most trippiest episode. It's called The Purge. And I'm not just saying that because it has cabbages in it. Take out the cabbages, and this is still the weirdest episode by far. I mean, seriously guys, imagine what I was thinking watching this. You've seen how weird this whole world is and all the topics that have been covered? What are the chances that there's literally a whole episode dedicated to cabbages? It's even on the intro board. So seriously, prepare yourself because this one will literally blow your mind. If you're new, check out our Cabbage Baby playlist so you can see the full implications. Okay, so we get to the intro and we see a cabbage, which means that the whole episode revolves around it. Why a cabbage? Aeon is on the trail of the ill-mannered criminal brute Bombara, which is this new big character that we've never met before. I find it interesting that this episode starts with a train. There really haven't been any other trains in any other episodes, so to me that's not just a coincidence. So Aeon is chasing this Bombara guy in a train, and the first thing that happens is there's this guy in a stall on the toilet taking a poop. He knocks on the wall to get Aeon's attention, and he points his finger to some toilet paper randomly, implying that he wants Aeon to get the toilet paper so that he can wipe. Next shot is another section of the train, and there's like a gymnast on a swing with a door that has a piggy bank at the top. It looks like he's trying to swing his way up so that he can grab the piggy bank. Then Bombara comes in, takes his bubble gum, while holding the younger guy by the throat. Next scene is Aeon grabbing the toilet paper for this guy in the stall, and she throws it over to him, not thinking this is weird at all. She moves on to the next section with the swing, and the kid has now been wrapped up and it looks like a Hanging Man reference. Bombara laughs and moves on to the next section, breaking the door, which makes the piggy bank fall, but Aeon saves it from breaking. So Bombara moves on to the next section and meets a crippled guy with a dog. He ends up throwing the dog out the window. He grabs what looks like to be a reel or some type of locked circular case device. Aeon uses the coin from the piggy bank to enter the next section, but Bombara moves on to the next section, closing an electric metal gate on Aeon. Aeon gets through the metal door, but doesn't help the crippled guy as he reaches for help. Bombara moves on to the next section of the train, which is surreal because there's grass here. Pretty strange. And he sees Trevor Goodchild is working on some miniature dolls or little toy figures. We get some one-eye symbolism, and then he's screwing a bolt at the top of the toy's head while this carnival music's going on. Well, Bombara sticks this real device on the train with the gum, and then runs off. Now Aeon's catched up to this part of the train and the circular device is ticking. Bombara runs off the train to this power plant looking area in the desert, while Aeon chases him down. Bombara ends up killing an innocent guy, and Trevor's watching over this, saying that a great deal of intelligence has been invested in ignorance. So Bombara comes up to Trevor, who's at the power plant now, and tries to kill him, but Trevor shoots him with a bunch of tranquilizers. Aeon watches from a distance as Trevor pulls up the shirt of this unconscious Bombara, and then we see this glass container with a metallic skeleton inside. Okay, so get ready. Basically, Trevor grabs his belly button, and it's like this weird innie-outie, and he opens it up as if it was tied in a knot. Then he whispers in Bombara's ear, "I am the source of your salvation." Then he says, "Hand me the custodian." And it's making these really trippy sounds, and then he shoves this metallic skeleton device into this guy's belly button and then closes it back up. Then Trevor says, "Providing conscience for those who have none." And Bombara starts to smile. It's just starting, I'm telling you, we're about to go down a fever dream. So Bombara wakes up, and there's this weird kid that shows up out of nowhere with some balloons, and Bombara is like a good guy now, and he's being super nice to this kid. He talks about his hobbies and says that he's recently been given a conscience, and that he really wants to help the boy. So he gives the boy some coins and then walks off holding hands. This is weird, so they basically go to the hospital and Bambara gives this kid his arm and it's like completely unproportionate to his body. Bambara is like, "I'll never forget you. I love you." And there's this other chick that's following Bambara as well, and Aeon holds her to gunpoint to figure out why she's following him. The lady says, "We wish to purge him." Aeon says, "Purge him of what?" She says, "His conscience." Aeon has no idea what she's talking about, and the girl says, "Come with me." This is where Aeon is introduced into a female secret society, and they're having a meeting where older ladies at the front, and there's a table or altar. A woman dressed in a coat comes up to the stage. She takes off the coat, and she's in this all red lingerie. The lady lays down on the table as if it was a ritual, and this older lady or grandmaster then grabs her belly button and stabs it with her hand with these long nails, and then she yanks out this custodian metallic skeleton parasite thing out of her belly button, and it's making these weird sounds. The lady who brought Aeon here, Judy, says, "Behold, the purging." The older lady then snaps the head off of the custodian and replaces it for a popsicle. And this is where it gets straight up like, what is this? Because I get if they were trying to remove these mechanical skeletons from their body, that would make sense. But that's not what they're doing. They remove the skeleton, break the head, and then they replace it with this popsicle for the new head, and then the older lady then brings the custodian back to the girl on the table, and this mechanical skeleton parasite thing jumps back into her body through her private parts, and she like enjoys it or something. It's almost as if they're reprogramming this custodian before putting it back in. She then acts really weird and then jumps out of the place as if she was possessed, so yeah, this is some counter-insurgent group that wants to use the custodian for their own purposes. The older lady literally says that they decrypt and repurpose these custodians. This group's leader tells Aeon that she can have Bambara, but asks her to bring the custodian to them by implanting it in herself. And at the same time, we see that they have male slaves that do their bidding. So do these males have custodians in them? Really weird, he's like begging for food like a dog. So Aeon has her next mission to get the custodian from Bambara, and the next scene is very interesting. We're introduced to the food distribution center in Brenya. This is where people get their food. And it's literally a cabbage temple or some cabbage utopia. This is just insane, I couldn't make this up if I wanted to. We have a bunch of people waiting in line like NPCs, and there's this intercom talking about "Please proceed to your designated consumption booth." So this is the first time in the entire series that we learn about what food they eat in this future, and these people are walking up to these glass booths to receive a strange metallic box, and then they make their way to a room so that they can consume it. It's very strange, like so much is going on that it's pretty difficult to process. First, there's two people that make a switch, perhaps having to do with the insurgent group, but everything's being monitored here, and Trevor catches them doing this and shoots them down. I think they were trying to steal one of the boxes so that they could take it back to the old lady. The older lady's outside of the food plant with a case of these popsicles, so she's planning on using them. So now we watch Trevor, who's like naked watching all of this, and he's plucking the hairs from his belly button or something. And what's in the metallic box? Cabbages. The woman who got shot transferred her empty case with the one that hadn't been eaten yet in an attempt to figure out what's in the cabbage. They're observing the body of the black lady that they just sniped, and they're realizing that something isn't right with their custodian. So Trevor's basically aware of everything that's going on. Okay, so the way it works is that people who are coming to get food have to come to these glass teller bank devices. You stick your hand in, and then it extracts your blood so that it can figure out the nutritional need of the customer. Interestingly, Aeon's wearing red gloves during all this. After the blood is extracted, like a bank, you're provided with a metal box that contains a cabbage. So the cabbage is sort of like a superfood or drug that supplies you with everything you need, and you can't just take this and go back home. You have to make your way into a booth to eat this under surveillance. We get a shot of Judy, and it seems this is where the insurgent group gets their custodians, which is weird because Trevor definitely knows about it. Aeon makes a swap with the blonde lady from earlier on the table, and we see that you have to give back the box afterwards. So Aeon is in the booth now, and since she swapped the box, her box does not have a cabbage in it, it has some tools, and her booth is the booth right in front of Bambara. Bambara is about to eat some of the cabbage, but gets injected by Aeon as she goes to get the custodian. Then we get this really trippy scene with a song, and it's a bunch of people eating their mind control cabbage, which makes them look completely complacent. The song says, "I'll be there to bury her, cold meat mutton pies," and they're scooping this cabbage as if it was pudding. They love their cabbage. Aeon pulls out the custodian from Bambara, and then the custodian tries to jump into Aeon's belly button without her consent. Bambara wakes up and is freaking out because he's now back to his original criminal state of mind. Bambara takes off, and Aeon is trying to stop the custodian from entering inside of her. Then the shot shifts back to the train, and that real device from the beginning finally blows up the train. Aeon manages to stop the custodian from entering her body and then destroys it, but a sniper shoots her, knocking her unconscious. Aeon wakes up with Trevor standing over her, and she's in a chair. These twins show up out of nowhere that are hugging on Trevor as if they are his children, and we find out that Aeon has been implanted supposedly with the custodian. Aeon's not sure if she's been implanted or not, and the little girl is like, "How do you feel?" Then we find out that they are on stage with a big crowd. So Trevor does know about the insurgent group and says that he can do whatever he wants with Aeon now. Judy shows up on stage, and this is super weird. So Judy's implanted now, and Trevor's like, "What did you do before you were implanted?" She says, "Well, I was involved in industrial espionage, domination, humiliation, white slavery, and false advertising." She's like, "But now that I have my custodian, I feel good." Then Judy says, "Oh, I do nursery rhymes." And they haven't really done anything like this in any other episode, but she starts reciting this cryptic rhyme. "Hinks, minks, the old witch winks, the fat begins to fry. Nobody home but Jumpin' Joan, father, mother, and I. Stick, stock, stone, dead, blind man can't see. Every knave will have a slave, you or I must be he." Trevor then says she's been completely rehabilitated. Aeon tries to kill Trevor, but she can't. She has hesitation, doubt. Is it her conscience or her custodian? So Trevor says that he created the custodian for his children, the two girls, that he created an artificial conscience. A fire for those who had none. Trevor says you wish to know whether you've been implanted or not, that you want to confirm your autonomy of will. Bambara shows up on stage with a gun, and he's really mad. Trevor sits down on the center of the stage as if he was meditating. Bambara is upset that Trevor forced him through the custodian to give away his left arm. Well, it's implied that Aeon doesn't really have free will because she ends up pulling a lever just as Trevor planned, which she thought was going to make this metal weight fall, killing Bambara. But when Aeon pulls the lever, Trevor starts convulsing and gagging, and out of nowhere, his head opens up as if he was a robot, and a custodian comes out of his body. So Trevor has a custodian inside of him? But then even weirder, that little toy from the beginning of the episode jumps out of the head of the custodian and starts dancing around like it was a Russian doll. Then the audience pulls a lever, and Bambara falls through a trapdoor. Then Aeon walks into another room, and there's a custodian in a glass container, and she realizes that this is her custodian as it's performing her animation, the same action that she was just doing to pull the lever, meaning she did it on her own free will. Very, very strange episode. It's basically questioning morality and free will. But I just find it so weird that they used cabbage to represent this fake utopian society where they're given a superfood that is designed based on the citizens' nutritional needs. It also seems to be making these people numb, keeping them in a state of mind control. Why cabbage? This is another connection directly tying the concepts of cloning, emotionless NPCs, and mind controls to these cabbages. After a while, it stops being just a coincidence. Why are cabbages connected to the concept of clones and resets? Perhaps there's a bigger picture. I think I'll finish off with that. The last episode is really weird too. It involves Trevor playing with human evolution and this weird alien that can take its eyes out and has telepathic powers. It's a very bizarre episode, but the twist is that they aren't aliens. They're actually evolved humans, and Aeon doesn't know this and kills the entire future humans with a disease unknowingly. These alien beings do not have stomachs and require no sustenance. So, yeah, pretty weird episode. That's basically Aeon Flux, a bizarre dystopian world where autonomy of will is a forgotten concept. These humans are trapped in a future where their fate is to be endlessly recycled as clones. Their memories are routinely wiped, their privacy is non-existent, and they're subjected to a diet of cabbage, consumed under the unblinking eye of surveillance. It's a life dominated by technological parasites, akin to the Matrix, which fabricate a false consciousness and a deceptive reality. The series brings together occult and sci-fi elements, painting a picture of humanity that's utterly lost. The movie takes these themes further, revealing a future where humanity wasn't extinguished by a disease, but, ironically, by the cure that led to infertility. Trapped in a cycle of ignorance, the citizens are unaware of their true past, doomed to repeat it. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. I'm a big fan of the show because I love surrealism and anything that really alters your state of consciousness, getting you to think differently, and the show does a great job of doing that. Apparently there's going to be an Aeon Flux live action reboot. I'm not sure if I should get excited for it, but could be interesting. If you wish to support our work, check out our book on the Cabbage Babies. Tell your friends about us, and all we can hope is that our minds may be unveiled.
Let go of everything you think to be true. Relax the mind and ask the question, do I truly understand what this reality is?